Afternoon, guys. Let me know if you can hear me okay. Running a little bit behind then, but usually give it a few minutes before we get going anyway. Afternoon, Vincent. I'm doing really well, thank you. Hope you did too. Hi, Justin. I'm good, thank you. Hope you're good. Cheers, thanks for letting me know. Got some US data coming up in about 15 minutes or just under 15 minutes, which is the flash manufacturing PMI, services PMI. So we'll have a little look at how that impacts the US dollar in a moment. Just watching one of my positions at the minute, just been long euro on a very short time frame. So yeah, just looking at how dollar's reacting to this area here at the minute, this 106. Obviously, on our week ahead analysis video this week, we were discussing the sort of fact that last week the dollar just consolidated between that sort of 106.57 highs and the lows around about that 106. And yesterday we actually had quite an interesting break to the downside, very strong bearish move into these swing lows, that 105 spot 50 handle. And since then we've had an aggressive sort of rally in price. So it'd be interesting to see how the US Open takes this. Does it push price higher, and do we see price head up towards that 106 spot 57 handle, or do we see a bit of a rejection here and price try and sort of come back down towards this 105 spot 50 handle? So yeah, really interesting developments here going on in the US dollar at the moment. That's why I want to kind of see how this flash manufacturing PMIs and services PMI comes out in this next sort of few minutes or 10 minutes or so, just so I can see obviously if we get that kind of rejection in there. So yeah, quite a good start to the week for the US dollar so far. It's actually a very high impact news week. Let's just bring this down here, this news week. Very, very high impact, which is obviously usually when we get these kind of weeks, what we can often see in the market is a little bit more sort of risk off. So usually we can see the yen start to strengthen, even the dollar start to strengthen sometimes in these type of markets, because essentially because of the amount of high impact data, because of the type of data that comes out, investors look to go towards a more safer currency that would be essentially less volatile through this data, and the yen is one of those. And we have actually seen dollar yen come down a little bit. We will go check out dollar yen as well, because I still like that 150 level, so that's going to be something to look out for. Just in the weak German data seemed to have cable move in sympathy. Yeah, we did actually have some manufacturing PMI data this morning as well, and yeah, I was a little bit surprised by that cable move, I must admit, because the data out of the UK wasn't necessarily bad. Obviously anything above 50 seen as expansion, anything below 50 seen as contraction. So I can understand why pound fell necessarily, because it's still not great data. The Bank of England aren't going to see these kind of numbers coming up and think, okay, yeah, we really need to hike those interest rates to try and fight that. So if you actually open these, sometimes it can give you a little bit more of an indication. You can see here above 50 indicates industry expansion, below indicates contraction. Now the UK is a little bit more towards services rather than manufacturing. So services PMI is usually the one to watch, and that one did come in a little bit below previous. It was actually forecast to rise. It was revised though, so if you just hover over, it says revised from 47.2. So it was actually a bit of a mixed data release from the UK. And yeah, cable has dropped a little bit. I was a little bit surprised by that as well, I must admit, because I was looking to see if cable would kind of continue to rally going into this week, especially because of what we saw from the strength meter the sort of week prior. So obviously I like to show the strength meter. If you give me 2 seconds, I'll just get that strength meter up. Let me just see where I've put it. Is it this one? So we have this one. I do have another one as well, the currency strength meter. Here we go. So yeah, I was looking to see here. Let me just actually expand this out a little bit so you can see a bit better, and I can zoom it in a little bit. Okay, so with the pound previously, so the pound is the orange line, just through there. If you look at the key at the bottom, pound is the orange line, and you can see that we came from these -5 levels, and we did start to push a little bit higher. We actually finished, if I just grab that other strength meter, you can actually see the number that we finished on this week was -1. So we did climb up to sort of 0. We didn't see any kind of progression from that point. We came down. So pound was getting slightly weaker. The one that I really wanted to focus on this week was the euro. I quite like the idea of being long euro, just because of this sort of strength that we've seen from Europe last week. Lots of data though. So when you get this data drop, we've got to be a little bit more cautious when it comes to trying to trade those particular currencies. And you know, that's the case with euro, because we saw obviously French manufacturing PMI dropped. Just having a little look here. Services PMI came in a bit better. German manufacturing PMIs came in a little bit better than previous. So despite that, we've just seen sort of obviously the euro continue to fall. I'm just going to keep this in our sort of in reach at the moment. So I'm just kind of keep looking up just to make sure we see the US manufacturing PMI data drop. I was long on the short term euro. I've just been stopped out for a few pips in profit. Basically, I got long down in and around this level here. Looked for a bit of a move back to the upside. My full target was actually 106.25, so I came just shy, but I had a trailing stop loss, so I came out for a few pips here. But the day's been bearish. We've been bearish the whole day here on euro. If we look at the daily chart, we can see that price came up into this area. Now, this area doesn't look like there's much going on, just, you know, from looking at it, but you can see we do have previous highs over here at 106.90, where you can see ultimately we found resistance. Also, if you look at the volume from the high on the 12th of September to the low on the 3rd of October, you can see that we've actually got a high volume level through there. Let me just take that watermark off. It sometimes annoys me a little bit. But yeah, so you can see here, if I just zoom in, that we did have a high volume level coming in around about 106.65, and how price has reacted to that area. Quite aggressive selling coming in beyond that point. Yes, we did breach it, but we didn't fail to close above it, and then price today has started to push to the downside here. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see if this momentum continues. Obviously, we saw the euro getting stronger on the currency strength meter, so hopefully, or maybe we'll see that sustained. Across the board, we haven't really seen it sustained. If I just open this up, one thing I really like to do to gauge a currency's strength and weakness is have a little look at the change table here. Now, I'm using TradingView today, so that's the reason why I can see this. It'll be harder to see on MetaTrader platforms, but what I like to do is group the currencies together. Okay, and you can see here, this is the sort of euro, the euro pairs, and quickly at a glance I can see whether the euro is strong or not, because you've got all these changes here. Now, against the pound, it's down a little bit. Against the Australian dollar, it's actually down quite a lot. Kiwi as well, pound, yen, and even CAD. We actually spoke about Euro CAD yesterday. I was expecting some upside to this market. Now, bad data can do one or two things. It can either push us into an area of support where we can look for potential opportunities, or it kind of changes our bias. Against the dollar currently, we're 1 minute 44 off of the news, but currently as it stands, let's say the daily chart closed as is. Now, I would take that as a very bearish sign, especially coming from a level of volume. You know, I'd be expecting maybe a move back down towards this minor trend line support. So we're going to see how this one closes really by the end of play today. I would love to say, yeah, you know, this is sort of the bias has flipped here, but we don't know how price is going to react to data. And, you know, if anything, if price came back up into these highs, we've had lots of selling pressure already. So, you know, we might get a continuation in here at that point. So, yeah, euro, dollar, 4-hour time frame, you know, you could maybe look for a bit of a double top pattern to form for any kind of continuations here. So, yeah. Bongo's here. Welcome, Bongo. Hope you're doing okay. So, yeah, Euro's looking a little bit on the weaker side at this current moment in time. Let's jump over to Euro CAD because obviously I highlighted it yesterday, and I'm looking to see how price continues. Now, if I look at it from a weekly perspective, I quite like the idea of it being bullish. We've broken through previous week's high. The next sort of level of resistance is up here at around about 1.4727. So I quite like the idea of being sort of looking at those long opportunities to that point. It's about how we kind of get into the market. You know, I like to look at the sort of dynamic between the weekly and the 4-hour, 1-hour sort of situation. So if I was to go down to the 4-hour time frame, you know, I'm looking to see higher highs and higher lows. And, you know, we're coming back down to a level which I've got an alert set on, which is around about 145.40. Now, what happens is if price gets to that alert, this is where I'm going to be kind of, you know, looking to see, does price find support? How does it find support? You know, ideally, what I would like to see is price push into these levels here, and then we get kind of like a change in trend. So I could come down to the 15-minute time frame, for instance, and have a little look how price is developing here. Do we start to see price try and make new highs? Or do we start to see price continue this downward trend, okay, into support? Because what I want to see is higher highs being made before we try and continue to be long this market at the minute. Because I like to look at when price turns from being in that sort of retracement phase into that sort of impulsive phase through there. So I want to see that impulse. Now, typically at those areas here is where we get these kind of chart patterns where you've got sort of, you know, consolidation, you've got double bottom pattern, you've got inverse head and shoulders patterns. Those type of patterns form around areas where this could occur, and that's when we want to try and capture that move to the upside. So I like to go from sort of the weekly to the 4-hour, and then very occasionally, depending on the chart, go down into sort of the 15-minute. That's if I'm not trading, obviously, futures. So yeah, I'm just kind of watching EuroCAD here. I want to see how if the 4-hour can transition. And just to kind of show you what I mean, if I look at where price has kind of transitioned into that new phase on the 4-hour time frame, like here, for instance, I'll go down to that 15-minute time frame. We can see that price forms an inverse head and shoulders pattern. It breaks. What does it do? It comes and finds support again at the kind of demand zone of that right shoulder, and then buyers step in. Okay, so just to kind of show you that those are the type of patterns that we look for when price gets down into this level. So we've got that obviously to look at. And I've set my alerts there, so we'll see what happens. Let's go flick back to the US dollar. I can see flash manufacturing PMI has come in above expectations here. So it says 50, 49.5 was the forecast, 49.8 was the previous. That has been revised from 48.9, so that's positive. We've then had a positive manufacturing PMI. Services PMI has pretty much done the same. It's beat those expectations above 50, so showing expansion here in the US, which obviously would lead to potentially a more hawkish Federal Reserve. So if we go to the daily chart now, you can see we've breached 106. Looks like we're pushing to the upside here, so I'll be interested to see where price goes to now in the whole grand scheme of things. Euro will be pushing lower off the back of this. Looks like we've got some levels down here that would be of interest in terms of, I just want to see how price reacts. You know, sometimes when you get these news events, it can push price into key levels before you see any kind of aggressive moves. So I would just keep note of around about 158.85, one spot 0585 is the level I'd be interested in here. If we get into there, I'd like to see how price reacts. Do you get buyers starting to come back in, even if it's just a relief from this downside pressure? You know, these sellers here are going to be looking to get off at some point, and that could be down at this level of volume. So yeah, I'm going to set an alert there. We'll see what happens if price does get to that point. Maybe we can do it in the stream. We'll have to wait and see. I do have my other charts open, to be fair, so that would kind of coincide with, let's just see, would be just having a little look here. My other charts. So we've actually broken past that point of control. So it could be around this sort of level here. So yeah, I'll keep an eye on that. I like that level there though, so we'll take a look at that if price does get to it. Let's go have a flick over to cable. Cable obviously pushing to the downside as well. If we just have a look at this, you know, strong bullish candlestick yesterday could have influenced a little bit of buying coming into today's session, especially because we broke through the previous high, but that hasn't been sustained. Price has, you know, really reversed here. So cable looking a bit bearish here. I actually quite liked Kiwi short still. You know, the New Zealand dollar still a weak currency. I was eyeing up a little bit of a short here today. I was looking at this earlier and thinking we could possibly get another sort of run from the New Zealand US dollar, because looking at the weekly chart, we've traded through this weekly range. Now this is where, you know, it could get interesting. Do we get a confirmed breakout of this sort of range, or do we see a false breakout occur and price close back within? You've got to be a little bit tricky when you get that sort of initial breakout, because it can be very easy to just try and short this market. However, we did get a nice little bit of a pullback, and like I said, I like to follow this weekly chart, and if the weekly chart is going to remain bearish, what we should see are sort of lower highs, lower lows out of the 4-hour trend, and you can see price is just making those lower lows, especially lower highs as well. We have come back into that level, we've rejected, so it would have been a sort of smart idea to try and look for that move down, because at least if you trade from a previous high, you've got the opportunity to have a bit of a tighter stop loss, but you've also got the opportunity to get out at these lows again, just in case price does turn around. So you could have been out here, or, you know, take a portion out and then let the trade run down potentially to the next target level, which I've got mapped in a 0 spot 57.75. So Kiwi, I still like the look of, New Zealand dollar opportunities there. So I will keep an eye on those. Maybe New Zealand yen could be something to look at. Although, you know, we've been a little bit sort of eyeing up the yen at 150. There's a potential here for price to continue lower. We've come back down into these lows here on Kiwi yen, and we haven't really seen any strong buying coming in at the moment. So there's still, I feel like, an opportunity to see price trade lower. Obviously, you've got this support down here at these lows on the daily chart. So there could be some opportunities there. I mean, again, look at this. We've come up into a level of resistance. What can you see forming there? You can see the fact that the price is now starting to make a new low. So this is where you can start looking for lower high opportunities. You know, if price comes in, maybe the 50 moving average rolls in there, you see a bit of a rejection. That could be an opportunity to potentially see price come back down into these lows in here, for instance. Okay. So what I like to do, especially when I'm looking at trades potentials, I like to look in the past. I like to see if I've got this support level. Let's say this is a 4-hour, you know, head and shoulders potential. I like to look at what happens on the lower time frames at these turning points, and that's why I say I like the double top, double bottom pattern, because those usually signal very strong reversals at that point. So yeah, keep an eye on your Kiwi yen, because that could be something to watch. Let's look over to dollar yen, because like I said, we're approaching 150 again. Do we get that same sort of, you know, breakdown when we get there? Last week was quite interesting. We got very, very close to it. Bloomberg were reporting that we did hit the 150. That was on sort of certain sort of brokerages or I don't know where they were getting that information from, to be honest. Probably live market data, but we didn't see that 150 getting tapped here. So I'm kind of waiting to see 150 really, you know, tested. I want to see if we do get that sort of intervention breakdown again. You can see obviously that's what happened last time. You know, it's just quite interesting to see how prices sort of just moved completely sideways. I was expecting a little bit more of a intervention, to be honest, than what we have seen, which can also lead to the fact that price may not stop at 150. You know, it could trade through it. I think breaks above 150 spot 20 and closes above this intervention high. I think price could maybe move up towards 151s, 152s at that point. So yeah, it's dollar yen is definitely one I still feel like we should be really keeping an eye on. I've got an alert set at 150 because, like I said, I want to see the reaction there. Last week I was looking at potential limit orders around this point, but I don't think I'm going to be looking at that right now. I'm going to see how price reacts. The reason as well why I quite liked it, there was some option expiries at 150 last week. I think it was 2.6 billion option expiry at that point. So I was also kind of expecting that 150 to be tested in the New York session, and we just didn't have it. So it is quite an interesting market at the moment. It's a very, I'd say, probably boring market to watch because we've probably expected a lot more action than we've actually got at this current moment. So we'll have to wait and see. Let me know, guys, what you're up to anyway. Any charts of interest that you have. Let's go flick over to gold. I always like to have a little look at gold and oil while I'm on the charts. So we'll have a little look at gold. We're coming back towards 1945, sorry, but very aggressive gold buying coming into the markets. I haven't actually checked the commitment of trader reports. Let me see if there's any kind of commitment of trader reports that I can see. The last time we looked, it didn't look like we were getting really aggressive buying. But we'll see. Let me just go on to dollar Swiss. Yep, Bongo. We'll take a look at dollar Swiss. I wonder what bonds are doing actually from that move. Sorry, I just had a quick thought. Where's my 10-year bond? Oh, we just hit 5%. I didn't actually see that on Monday. That's probably why we had such a big move. That 5% has been breached. And we've seen that kind of nice move to the downside there. That was really interesting, actually. We kind of talked about potentially 5% being tested after we breached this 4.5%. So yeah, I didn't actually see that yesterday. Sorry, I'm just trying to get the commitment of traders. Right, gold. Go to COT chart. Right. So let's see what bar chart has for us. We've got, don't need this one, we've got the legacy. So the commercials, I believe, are the green line, right? I can't remember how this one works. There's usually a little key to help us, but it's not there today. I think the commercials are the green line. Let's have a look. When price falls, they will be buying. Okay, no, the commercials are the red line, sorry. So yeah, buying is fairly close to the extremes, wasn't it? So if I actually grab a line tool here, what I like to look for when using the commitment of trader reports is extremes. So for instance, here you can see buying was really aggressive. If you actually look left, it was at sort of extremes in terms of it was the highest high for a good period of time. And then you can see how that then influences price. So if you look up, it didn't happen straight away, but price was still continuing to be bearish. We've then had the sort of double top effect on the commitment of trader reports, on the commercials, and then price has reversed. You know, it's almost like supply and demand, right? So here we've actually seen over the sort of period of this pullback here, we've actually seen commercials starting to buy more gold, right? They're going to do that anyway because they are buying more gold as the price falls because it's cheaper to purchase it. So the point is it becomes a problem when it gets sort of to the extremes. So we were very close to the extremes. We were also very close to the $1,800 level. And obviously you can see that was an extreme point, and now prices rallied aggressively. We've seen quite a lot of short contracts come in because they're going to try and take advantage of the higher price there as well. So yeah, that's interesting to see. Obviously then the green line are the non-commercials. These are investors, these are trend followers, so it's no surprise to see that they're looking to buy the gold market now. But you know, the next sort of area could be towards that $2,100 point now for gold. So I'd be interested to see if we can obviously achieve that. So let's go over to gold. On the weekly chart, it's very bullish. You know, we've just had a little look before, but very, very bullish here. Sort of 18.15 was where we were looking at support. Really strong buyers coming in at this point, and it looks like we could obviously breach that, head towards, like I said, that $2,050, $2,100 level. So yeah, I mean, we've had a bit of a pullback. Let's have a little look at the daily chart. I'd be really focused in on this daily chart, to be honest. What I'd like to see is kind of like what we're seeing now, very low ranging pullbacks. And quite often when you get a really low ranging day on gold, it can be met with quite aggressive price action. I mean, you can see here there's just that kind of low ranging candle, low ranging candle, low ranging candles, low ranging candles, and you get these quite big moves in gold. So I would be looking for that kind of price action again. If we get sort of a slowdown into 1945, little low ranging candles, that could lead to another sort of potential move higher here as well. So yeah, gold looking pretty good here. Bongo wanted me to check out dollar Swiss, so that's what I'm going to do. How long have we been running? About 30 minutes. So I'll probably finish here on dollar Swiss. I can immediately say that's a very interesting market because we've come into a level of support here, that 8,900. Let's have a look at it from a weekly. So this is actually, I remember now, we were talking about this potential inverse head and shoulders pattern here on the weekly chart. We've got the left shoulder in there, the head. Is this going to be an area where we get that right shoulder coming into play? Now, the Swiss franc's actually been fairly strong recently. So that's why we've seen that kind of push to the downside here. But this is an important point now. So like I said before, if I'm expecting the weekly to go into an impulsive phase, what should we see on the 4 hour? We should see inverse head and shoulders, a break in trend of structure, consolidation breakout, or even a sort of the double bottom pattern forming. Okay, so let's go check that out on a 4 hour time frame. Let's see how that's looking. So it looks like we've got either the sort of double bottom pattern or we've got a consolidation build up. So we've got that moving there, moving here. Okay, so we could potentially say that is a double bottom. What we could be looking for is breaks above 89.60. That break there could lead to potential upside as well. Alternatively, price is going to try and play this range. So you could be looking to see how price reacts back down at the 8,900 level, because that's obviously an area where buyers are starting to step back into this market. So yeah, one or two options I think here, Bongo. We've got the lows acting as support at the minute. So, you know, an alert here could go in hand with a potential move. We've also got this kind of consolidation high that if price breaches and we start making higher highs, higher lows, then, you know, a move potentially higher, maybe back to 9,100 could be something to look out for. Again, this is all going to come down to as well that US dollar potential in the markets. You know, if we look at it at the minute, dollar is bullish. We are technically still in that bullish trend because price hasn't closed below the previous swing low. So for me, this is still bullish. I still feel like we're going to reach 108. We'll see if we get there or not. But I still feel 108 could be a good target for the US dollar index. So we'll see. We'll see if we can breach that and reach that level. I mean, if we do, I imagine, you know, dollar Swiss could be up towards this 9,100 level by that time. So yeah, I'd be looking at the daily closes. You want to see some bullish daily closes, but anywhere sort of in and around this 8,900 level could be definitely something to look out for in the short term. So yeah, any other charts of interest, guys? If not, I'll probably leave it there. Let's just flick over to oil, see how oil's doing. We're coming back down from these levels now. We tried to breach up above $90. It didn't happen. Coming back down towards the 83s. Let's have a quick flick over to silver. Finding a bit of support here. Have a look at the monthly. Silver could be one to watch if you're looking at sort of an alternative to gold. Silver could be one to watch. I just think gold's got a little bit more weight. It does have literally more weight to it, but more weight to it in terms of fundamentals as well. I mean, Kiwi's not doing too bad. Kiwi Swiss ended up taking profit on that one. Yeah, that's about all I've got, guys, because I'm just looking to see how Euro reacts, if it can push a little bit lower. We've breached the hourly 50 MA now, so that could lead to some good downside in the short term. So yeah, we'll see. Right then, guys, I think we're going to leave it there. If you do have any more questions, then please let me know. Vincent, just quickly with the Euro Oz. Let's jump over to Euro Oz. We're seeing quite a bit of downside here. I actually nearly went long Euro Oz yesterday. In this 15-minute break of trend here, I nearly went long back to the highs, but I decided against it. That would have been a good trade in the end, although when price came back to the swing highs here at that double top, and we had that move to the downside. So yeah, interesting market again. Euro was obviously coming back into this weekly level of resistance again. This is why I quite like looking at the weekly chart. We can see that there's resistance there. Price has fallen. We've had 3 strong weeks. Would that continue? Would we get back towards the 1.7, or will we get that rejection? It looks like at this current moment in time, we're getting a bit more of a rejection. Again, what would we expect to see if that is the case? I'd expect to see a change of trend from the 4-hour point of view. So what I can see is price rallying. You've got a few lows in here. that could be sort of contention for new lows. So, if you get a rally higher and we get a lower high, that could be the sort of area where you look to see price try and trade towards these lows in here. Okay. If we don't, and price starts to find a bit of support, then it could breach that high again. I just think at the moment, although I liked the idea of being euro long, obviously we've hit that level of resistance now. So we're starting to see a little bit of a sort of change in that. Like I said, I'll change my bias. If the 4 hour starts changing trend, I'll definitely change my bias on these euro pairs, but we'll have to just wait and see. That's the problem when you're looking at sort of trend trading. You're always going to sort of be a bit vulnerable to the top of a potential market. So, right, I'm going to leave it there, guys. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you, Justin. Have a great day too. Thank you, Vincent, Bongo. Thank you for all your comments and questions. Really appreciate it. If you could leave a like on the stream, I'd really appreciate that. And thank you for taking the time to come and join me today. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll speak to you soon.